You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Football Stadium Prince. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped!
Yes!
And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. It's Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
It is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Hello again, soccer fans. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and with me, as always, is the man behind the mic, the Nate Morales. Nate, interesting week of soccer, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, John. As as Stefan from Saturday Night Live would say, this week has it all. A thrilling victory against our rival. It's got a come from behind scrappy draw. It's got a midget in a backpack. It's got bitter defeat.
A human fanny pack.
A human fanny pack. Fights, red cards, puke on the turf. Like, I don't think we ever expected a single week in our crazy summer of soccer to look like this. But here we are. There's a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah, as far as topics go tonight, we'll talk about the big win against Duluth in the NPSL, the USL2 draw with St. Croix this week. And then last night, well, if you're listening, whenever you're listening to this, the most recent Twin Stars loss at home. And then obviously we'll talk a little bit of the UPSL action. They're continuing to roll. The Futures boys are on a hot streak. And then we'll this weekend's USL action at the Demis, Des Moines Menace, Demis the Menace. And then NPSL action again across Eris, and then finally the UPSL team probably heads to their final tough test against Austin FC, the newcomers in the league. So let's just get after it, man.
Austin, Massachusetts?
You know I said Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Unleash the fury, Mitch.
The way things have been going, John, we knew that we talked about this last week. We knew we needed to field our best team really to have a chance against Duluth. Duluth had been running roughshod over the NPSL North. I don't think they'd given up a goal by the time they came to the friendly confines of McKnight Field over there in Golden Valley. And hey, you know what? We did that. And when you put your best players on the field, turns out you win.
Yeah.
In what was a rarity on the season, Minneapolis City took advantage of a gap in the USL2 schedule to pull some talent that ordinarily would be traveling with that team. And we got out to an early start courtesy of a Zach Susi goal. But first, City had to weather an almost immediate dangerous Duluth attack. I don't know. Did it go crossbar? I mean, it was really close.
I think it was a Metacastillo save into the crossbar. Yeah.
And we weathered that and got through it. And Zach scored within the first, 10 minutes. So how nice to see the team respond to a wake-up call like that in a way that we haven't seen before. Susi was fed by Loic, and it's clear that those two guys have some chemistry going back to the Futures League a couple years back. So putting aside the need across both top teams for Loic's production, is that maybe another argument for consistent team choice across both teams? Like, hey, it turns out these guys develop chemistry, and when you keep them together, it all works out.
Yeah, I think so. And we've been talking about that as a staff. You know, we entered the season with an undertaking that we knew was going to be difficult. And we talked about on the show many times, especially in this kind of down season we're having. But there was an emphasis like, hey, we still have plenty of soccer left to like make the season respectable. Let's try to define cores. So I know the staff made a real concerted effort to basically identify like, here's your top 13 players that you want for the NPSL team. Here's your 13 you want for your core for the USL2 team. And then here's 15 or so players that remain that we can use for both. So
Mhm.
I know that's happened, and this Duluth game aside, it's what we're starting to do. But you're right, like pairing talent that works well together is kind of how you build a team. It's unfortunate that we went a little different route to begin the season, but hey, we showed that it's real funny, Nate, when we don't have a fractured talent pool. Because every one of our players has talented. We don't have a
Yeah.
fractured talent pool. We can put actually a strong squad together. Look what happens against the best team in the division.
Yeah. Yeah. And City, and speaking of that, that non-fractured talent pool, we pulled Luca Contestable into the NPSL squad, and he also made an impact. City's second goal came courtesy of a free kick from really short range, just basically on the line. And it's funny, I was kind of going back and forth with Matt Elder. He was up in the booth with us, chatting a little bit, and I was like, no way he's gonna go direct from this distance. It's just like, with as big as Duluth always is, as great as Daly is, like, how can you get it up over the wall like that? And Matt
Mm-hmm.
said, you got to do it. And lo and behold, he did it. The ball took a deflection off of the chest of one of the guys in the wall, and it went in. So that was our second goal. But I think, John, the real story for how City kept the lead well into the game belongs to, in my mind, the defense of Wes Lawrence in particular, as well
Mm-hmm.
as our newly called up keeper, Kalen Mattis Castillo.
I think you also have to throw in there Xavier Zange.
True.
So essentially you also had Ben Hughes. So you look at your back line, it's basically your USL2 starting back line. It's Xavier, it's Wes on the wings,
It was Jonah.
It's Jonah and Ben.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen as kind of our most successful back four pairing this season, in my opinion, with that has like that cohesion and what they all can offer. I thought that like what that did was initially it showed Duluth that first off the long ball wasn't really going to be as effective in this match, and it also showed that someone like Xavier can totally equalize a Blake Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know what the name of their
Aaron
left
Pike.
Aaron Pike, yeah, and it showed that someone like pound for pound, step for step, is Aaron Pike probably going to outbeat a Wes Lawrence? Yeah, probably. But what he didn't face in the first matchup, no disrespect to the guys that he was facing that we put out there up in Duluth on the wing, but Aaron Pike kind of had his way with his athletic ability, and what he ran into was an absolute bulldog defender in Wes Lawrence, who just is going to make up for that speed with just fight and grit and what he can do forward, which pinned Pike back. So essentially that dangerous front three that Duluth was throwing at us in the first game was equalized by that back four. And then with Xavier and West liking to get forward, it was pinning Perry and Pike back. And it was really only leaving Sam Thornton by himself up top, which is that's the way that's what you want. That's the way you equalize it. But I to go back to your point, I thought that the inclusion of Kalen Mattis Castillo was huge. I mean, he was everywhere he needed to be. Like I think maybe there was one spectacular save he had to make, but everything else was just like reading the game and positioning for
Great
him.
positioning.
And he capitalized off that multiple times where it looked as if maybe he was out of position, but he was thinking a step ahead. So maybe a little bit of he was on the bench for the game when we played in Duluth. Maybe there was he took some notes and he showed that stepping in for Troy, he's equally as capable, and I thought he definitely was a standout performer, which is why we made him the player to watch in the match that we'll talk about this week in a little bit.
Yeah, so Duluth managed to pull one back at the death, but honestly, it was such a good night. I don't remember a moment where really, John, felt like they'd get back into that game. Like
they had waves of attack, and there were some squeaky bum moments for sure. But it all led back to Mattis Castillo being in the right place at the right time. And the defense, I thought we got stretched a little bit, but that when they started the waves of attack, it was when they got super direct on us, and then it was a case of they made substitution. I think I even mentioned to you, or I mean, there was like 50 people inside the box. It's kind of like a VIP section of players current and past that were coming in there. I think we even saw our old friend from TCO was up there for a little bit, and
Bloomquist came up,
and David Bloomquist was up there for a little bit too. But anyways, besides the fact, I mentioned it to somebody, and I was like, after their first wave of subs, I was like, they've literally just put on every attacker they have, and they were running with like 5 strikers basically at us. So of course you're going to get waves of attack with having all of your best attackers on the field at the same time. But
Sure.
That's when we were able to utilize someone like Luka and his just calmness on the ball. And then, Jamison Charles winning balls with him. I thought Aiden Kavanaugh probably had his best game to date against at the NPSL or USL2 level.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just working, right? Everything that we did was working, and it was great to see it work against a team that was a little bit on the high horse, right? For obvious reasons. I mean, they were running through the league, like you said, but it was really good against a rival who was definitely carrying the big stick for a little while, and swapping that out for a little twig was kind of nice.
Yeah. So you and I talked a little bit before. I said I think Wes Lawrence was a stand-up performer, and you might have another name on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Luka. Not only just because he scored, but I thought that what's the name of the Duluth center midfielder? Their number 10, the guy from the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is their best player.
Absolutely.
By far, they have talent sprinkled all over the place. But I think that he is really what makes it all work because of just his general on the ball ability, his ability to pick out passes. I think that he's like a Modric, Luka Modric type player where he can do the ticky tack, keep possession, 5-yard passes, but where he really excels is in his accuracy, skipping lines and playing a ball into space for one of his attackers to rush onto. And I thought that with our defense equalizing that, it really meant he had to go in and do the dirty work. And I thought Luka was equal to the test. And then obviously he gets the game winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the week took a turn for the weird, I would say.
It's where all the weird started. All the weird started.
In a strange Tuesday night matchup against St. Croix away. John, after St. Croix stunned City with yet another early goal, and then followed it with a second off of, I think, like a long range shot that felt a little bit like a Hail Mary, things really got weird. And I'm talking weird to the tune of St. Croix player. I think he's ex-City, right? Evan Anderson.
Ethan Anderson.
Ethan Anderson, going down, and turns out just as puking on the field.
Yeah.
So
they're like, the commentators were just awful. And
yeah.
they're like, it looks like he's bleeding. It's like, no, dude, they're cleaning up a pile of puke. That's human waste.
She's scooping it into her hand to get it off the field. That poor trainer. And then, so there's some stoppage time, right? There's like time ticking away. Then St. Croix lost their starting keeper to a non-contact injury. I think he went up to pluck a ball out of the air and landed weird, and I don't know, tweaked a hammy or something, but he was done.
Yeah, he went down hard, and I initially had thought there was a collision. And I mean, if you listen to the commentators, he got shot from the bell tower.
Yeah, right.
But he just went up, routine, came down, and it's just one of those unfortunate non-contact injuries. But yeah, he's out then.
Yep. So he's done, and then St. Croix lost their dominant defender in that redheaded guy Hecht, right?
Yeah, Jared Hecht.
Jared Hecht, yeah. And so all this time tending to the wounded led to a lot of extra time that City had to play in at the end of that first half. And John, enter Loic Masanvi, who dragged this team back into the game. Talk about how those three events led up to what I think was a coaching mistake on St. Croix's part of not covering at all for their missing center back tactically, and how City took advantage of that.
I'll just lead with it. It was an absolute coaching mistake.
Like total disaster for them. Like what were they thinking? They thought they could get by without their best defender?
Well, they tried to go with 3 in the back. And like that's not the way to go in that scenario, mainly because I want to put this out there. Like, yeah, the score line was 3-3. Like however those chips fell, But that game was the second game against this team where Minneapolis City was the better team on the field. They just got unlucky and didn't come away with it. And I'm not just saying that because obviously this is a Minneapolis City podcast, but the lion's share of possession, the chances created, all of that stuff was in our favor in the last game, and we hit the post, whatever. I thought like this was going to be the same type of game again, and it kind of was. But in that scenario, where as a coach, when you're looking at like the depth of the two matches, the one you had where, defensively you were getting a toe on everything at the last possible second and balls were hitting the post, and your defense was really keeping you in it. And then this game, it started out the same way again, where I don't think Heck goes down if he doesn't have to chase the weak around, who's hard to catch. So you take out, I don't think, no disrespect to Ethan. I think Otis Anderson is actually a better center back than him. Maybe he was unavailable for whatever reason, but Jared Heck is there. I mean, he's their stud back there. And when he goes down, to not tactically shift and concede the fact that you're already up 2 goals by dropping your striker back and maybe putting one of your center defensive midfielders in that spot, moving an outside defender in and bringing a winger back out wide, but having bodies back there was an absolute coaching mistake. And then City capitalized on it by doing what we did best in that half, which was putting pressure on the St. Croix defenders when they had the ball, because everything was either going long, play well with their feet, that they showed in the first half. And then at this point, you're dealing with 3 instead of 4. So, off to them for City for recognizing that and putting more bodies forward, to, with an advantage, finally attacking the wound. And look what happened. We get back into it by scoring 2 goals right away.
Yeah. Up until the end of the first half, John, when we pulled those 2 goals back and even into the second, City was really a one-trick pony, sorry to say. Like, I think it was all about regain and maintain possession in the midfield, maybe pass back to the center backs, kind of dink around there, and then just hit that long ball down the right side.
Yeah, I would say
side,
so.
Every time. I mean, right side, to the point that it was like a joke by the middle of the second half.
But I think, though, that it was warranted, because that's where your chances were coming from. Like, Zach Susi was really causing problems for their right back, or their left back, whatever side they were going down, the outside back, we'll say. So you were getting your chances that way, and I was actually okay with it, because it's kind of like the phrase of like, well, if something's working, why change it? Like, until it stops working, and it did stop working to a certain degree, but it was working, man. So I was actually more okay with that than us trying to do the death by 1,000 cuts and trying to pass the ball in the goal. So getting direct then was fine for me.
Okay. Overall, I think a gritty but frustrating result. Like, we got to feel like we missed out on 2 points here. There was should have been 4-3, should have been 3-2. Either way, City should have probably walked away with this a goal up due to a missed call.
There was the penalty kick that they got that was questionable.
Real soft.
Hits the bar. It looks like on replay it might have gone over the end line. Eli Goldman gets absolutely hammered in extra time in the box, that didn't go our way. And, those are things that you can't control. But I thought that the things that we could control, as far as like clawing back in that game, I think it was probably our best performance to date, even though it didn't go our way.
Yeah. Who are your bright spots in this one?
I mean, it's pretty simple to go with Leak, but that's kind of the low-hanging fruit around City headquarters these days with his performance right now. I thought it was Zach Susi, and I thought it was not only because he was wreaking havoc on his own, but his combination play with not only Leak but also Eli Goldman, I thought was fantastic. It was almost as if like Herbert wasn't even needed, like it wasn't. He was almost like a decoy, where they were like, well, we're just going to keep doing this going through Susi because he's a hot hand right now. And I thought that his work rate, including tracking back, I think that's something that we've missed a lot since we lost someone like a Will Kidd, who really puts in the work on the defensive end from an attacker perspective. I thought that Zach kind of he picked that torch up against St. Croix, so he'd be my top guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. We're definitely missing a Will Kidd, so it's nice to see someone step up into that role. Things are not going to get easier for the USL2 team, John. They head to Des Moines to take on the first place Des Moines Menace, who have won every game except for one in which they drew. Is this a throw the kitchen sink situation at them, knowing that we've got Eris on Saturday?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's kind of like the reverse of what happened with the Duluth game. It's I mean, we'll talk about Eris in a little bit here, but historically speaking, that's the game where guys who don't get a ton of minutes that are talented get the lion's share of the minutes. So maybe that's what happens. I think honestly, if it were me, I would go at it as business as usual. Like you're starting to have this core that's working well together. Maybe like just go up there and test yourself and your theories around selecting this core to be the horses you're going to run the race with for the rest of the season against the best and see how it goes. And what we have shown in the past, Nate, is what happens with us against teams that we are better than, we play down, and what happens against better competition, we play up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would lean on the cohesion starting right now and see if they can level up.
Yeah. All right. Well, sadly, John, like I mentioned, that NPSL high ended on Wednesday as the team returned to the Nelly after a hard-fought Saturday and a real weird Tuesday night. Fans were treated to an even weirder Wednesday night.
Weird Wednesdays.
The Twin Stars had something to prove after we beat them 2-0 in the season opener. And I would say so did forward Siddique Jabate, right? He's a futures player who scorched his old club for 2 goals. And you talk about a kid that just ate the center backs for lunch. His 2 Twin Stars goals were, I would say, overshadowed by the triple reds that were issued coming from a fight in the second half. I mean, we're used to seeing some bizarre shit in these Twin Stars games, but this takes the cake, man. What happened?
So I had to go back and watch it again. The center back for Twin Stars, I can't remember his name. He's number 29. Scheibel, I think his name was. A couple plays before this one, he had kind of gone in, left his feet, and went to ground, and kind of went in and finished with a high boot. And a couple City players kind of olayed that one and let him go by. And then what resulted in the fricas was he went to ground again, and he got a piece of Abdu Ragasi, and Abdu ended up just being on top of him, and I think that's where everything sparked off. Where I think it looked a lot. I mean, you couldn't see from our vantage point because there were bodies everywhere. Like if anything happened where a punch was thrown or whatever, but you have 2 players on the ground tussling. It looks terrible. And then so they both get obvious red cards, which I'll give the referee credit for. She did the right thing there, which was like a no doubter. Like if you're gonna remove Abdu, who looked like the aggressor in this scenario, the guy who caused it by coming in with a high boot, you just get rid of both of them, and then it keeps the peace. So I thought that was the right call. The interesting call, which also is the right call, was Arthur Perrins on the bench came on to police the situation. Like he came onto the field of play.
And you can't leave. You can't leave the field. Yeah, you can't leave the bench area.
You can't. And even though I honestly, going back and watching it, think that his inclusion in the situation actually made it a lot less worse than it could have been, because he got there right away and like he was clearly helping the situation, but you can't do that. So then he gets ejected. And then went over and sat with citizens, which I thought was pretty funny, and cheered the guys on. But at that point, you have a lot of space. But what I want to get back to is like why there was the uphill climb for City. So traditionally, the Twin Stars roll with a 3-5-2, and with that 3-5-2, the areas of exposure for how to attack that are getting your wing side defenders in the 4-3-3 up into the action. That's where the pockets of space are in front of the back 3. And what happens is if you have lazy or less active outside wing backs in the 3-5-2, then there's that space. So I don't think we exposed that space enough. We saw Ekroth and Murakami do a decent job of that until we actually needed it. And then Murakami, I thought, really started to play well in that role, getting forward, whipping some good balls in from the left side.
Yeah.
But also the way that the Twin Stars historically play is those three guys win the ball, and who do they give it to? They give it to
Kareem.
Kareem Darbaki, who is dangerous when he has the ball. And I thought that in this instance, it was actually their number 6, Abdul Rahman, I think it was his last name. That guy was their best player on the day, even with Siddique scoring the 2 goals. He was finding that pocket of space in front of the back 3. And what we didn't do with our central 3 is advance and put the pressure on a back line that did nothing when they got the ball besides kick it long. And anything that we cut off long, they were coughing up short. We saw instances of it working in the first half, and then we didn't expose it in the second half when they got tired and they didn't substitute. That I think that's where it all started, and that's where we got in the deep hole. That was a long-winded answer for you there, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's as we go into the second half down 2-0, which was shocking. I expected some changes. I looked around and you could just tell that some of the Twin Stars guys were bigger. Some of them were faster, and you expected potentially some guys that had lost possession for us a number of times to be removed and maybe add some attacking threat. I was surprised that Ragasa was still on in that second half to get and ended up in that position to get that red card. I thought he was physically outmatched in the first half. On that left side, he was dropped a number of times. He could not maintain possession when challenged, one-on-one, when he tried to back into guys, things like that. So when the substitutions came in, I was really surprised that it was Aiden Kavanaugh that was pulled. I thought Aiden did really well in tight spaces. I thought Aiden was able to stand up to the physicality of the Twin Stars in a way that Ragasa wasn't, but not my call out there. City was able to turn it around, I think, late in the second, pulled a goal back.
The doubleheader.
In the 70th, 70-something, and another one in the 90+, but the damage had already been done. Heroics from Murakami. He headed in a nice effort that was headed to him. It was crazy. Ball played in by Vang or something. Barry heads it to the back post. Murakami heads it in. Diving headers all around, which was really, really nice. And then Lionel Vang shows up again. He had a nice tap in on a ball that was crossed, I think, by Murakami, right from the end line.
Yep.
And that or was it Ekroth?
I think it was an attacker. It might have been. It might have been Leweek.
Oh.
I don't remember that. I only watched back the fight, so I didn't watch the goals.
Those two goals weren't enough to overcome the 3-goal deficit. I would say Mattis Castillo got unlucky on the day, hung out to dry for 2, and then had just could not get a handle on a third one that was pretty much hit right at him, and he just misplayed it. So that's too bad.
Otherwise, he wasn't really tested. He wasn't really tested, right?
Right. I mean, like I said, hung out to dry on 2, and then that third shot from a ways out was unfortunately played.
Yeah.
Hard to find one, John. Who stood out for City?
I mean, I thought Murakami did well, but I think the consistent performer for me was Charlie Adams in the middle. I mean, just he was all over the place. I mean, on the turf, box to box. He had a lot of time on the ball in the beginning of the game. Just calm on, and he had to fight with in the first half and the beginning of the second half. He had to fight with their 2 top players on the day, in my opinion, and or historically in Darbaki, who's always dangerous, but Abdul Rahman, who was just blazing around the field, and then ultimately having to move back when some of the adjustments started happening in the second half to a center back role, and basically just man for man marking Siddique, who is, even though he's young, he's a load of a human being.
Yeah.
So he had that task then, and he went the full 90, and I thought he did great. I was texting with him today because some unfortunate news hit the airwaves that Walton Casuals, his former club in England, is folding. So
Oh,
I texted him today with that news, and we were talking a little bit about the game, and I was like, yeah, man, I thought you put in a really good shift, so he'd be my guy.
that's great. Sad about Walton. Glad we were able to get our hats purchased.
Yeah. Well, I even sent them an email, and I just said, like, if you'd be interested in like trying to get a outlook on a member-owned, community-supported model, we'd be happy to like share that with you if that would help. And I got a response almost immediately back from the club that said the financial deficit is just too large for that even to work. So they were looking for they were looking for a Daddy Warbucks, and they
Yeah, they
didn't
needed
find one.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
Walton.
so RIP Walton Casuals.
Well, up next, John, for that NPSL squad is this Saturday's home game against Lacrosse Eris. Eris started the season actually stronger than in
Yeah.
previous years. They beat Joy Athletic. I think they had another draw. They might have had another. Anyway, they've had some pretty solid results, but that has fallen off of late to the
Two forfeitures.
two forfeitures, because I know the latest one against Med City, straight
And
up
Duluth.
forfeiture, and then they forfeited against Duluth. So this kind of smells like what they tried to do to us when we were top of the table a couple years back, where they just weren't going to play us.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
at the
Field
same time,
issues and
at
all
the
of
same time, like, it's not like they're traveling from Illinois, so just like tell your dudes to get in their car and drive up to Minneapolis. We're here to play, so hopefully we see them on Saturday. But
I mean,
any more than two forfeitures on the season has to be incredibly damaging to their brand if you're a player that wants,
how do you attract talent then if that's the case? And I know you were on a text chat today with a few folks within the club. We were talking about like the brand image for City could have been in our first year when we almost didn't have enough players to go to Madison.
Yeah,
We could have been in the same scenario where you forfeit and then you don't show your players that you're a stable ground to play with, and you also don't show them that you're willing to like do what beg, borrow, and steal to fight for them, to give them the opportunity to play. And it's got to be tough to get talented players in an already probably tapped out market for talent, to want to play with you. It's weird, but I mean, hey, if I had the money line on it, we might not have a game on Saturday.
that would be too bad. I do agree. I hadn't thought about that. When you think about that trip to Madison, like what that might have meant for Minneapolis City if we decided not to go. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, we don't have enough guys, and we didn't scrap and get Sam Forsgren at the airport, and we didn't put Dan Hodeman on the bench, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, all the things that went into a great story.
all of a sudden we look like some super amateur club that doesn't have a shit together. So why would I play there?
Well,
Why
I mean,
would I
like,
take it seriously as a fan?
I've talked to like Patrick Hodgins at the Bavarian Club, and like he's been in scenarios where he's like, asking me like, what would you do in this situation, kind of thing, and just trying to get some advice before he makes a final call with not having enough guys to go places. But like some of their stuff has been just like league stuff where they're just so successful in cup competitions that like the leagues are like, well, you still have to play. And I know I know that there's been multiple times over the last 2 seasons where he's been like, do I just forfeit because I don't want to trot out the same guys in back-to-back days? And, it's like, well, like that, I know that's a scenario, but this isn't even that type of scenario, in my opinion. It's more of like they just don't have their shit together.
No, for real. Absolutely. Well, the bright spot, John, in the City season has been the young UPSL squad. They are sitting in second place in the Midwest West with a game in hand on the leaders, Valora FC. This week, John, they dispatched Turbo Sports. What did you hear about that game?
What did I hear about that game? I did the PA for that game and I crushed it.
That's right. That was the first part of the doubleheader.
Yeah, that was the first part of the doubleheader.
Against on the Duluth day.
I mean, it was the same scenario that we've seen with this young team throughout the season. They had their clear message. They had the right mixture of players. It was my first opportunity in a while to check them out in a game because they haven't really had many home games. They've been on the road a lot. They fight hard. They're fun to watch. They still make kid mistakes, but they've limited those to a handful instead of a whole half bowl. And they're just playing good soccer. And I'll tell you this. Leo Runstead, he ended up scoring in the run of play to go up 1. Karam finished the scoring off in the second half to go 2-0. Leo Runstead's the youngest player in the group. I think he just turned 17. He is a special player. He's an attacking midfield player. Plays throughout the middle. He is one that I'll tell City fans right now, like start remembering that name, because it's only a matter of time until he kind of carries that futures torch into the senior roster, like some of the other folks, like Luca or like a Luik, or a Zach. He's the real deal, and he showed it in that match. He had a lot of time on the ball. Was really trying to limit too many touches, which was kind of the knock that I had on him in the first matchup that we watched. But he's been limiting those and really linking well with his attackers, and he played great. He would be my standout if I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
No, that's fun to see. You're not skipping ahead. This next week will be the final test for the Young Crows as they take on first 2 mid-table teams on Saturday and Tuesday. We're talking about Austin Villa, which is the best expansion team name in the league, and the Maplebrook 56ers. And then they're going to finish their season against Ibusa FC, who are bottom of the table. I think 0 points. Mm-hmm. Austin John is the one that feels like the threat that's going to trip up any playoff hopes, right?
I think that even if it doesn't go our way, from a result perspective, that we might be able to latch on to a playoff spot. But you don't want to have to, especially in the UPSL, rely on another team to do a job for you. So it's got to be taking care of business. I think this is the last push. I would highly recommend that folks get out to the Nelly for the last home game to check this team out and give them the support they deserve, because they have been the bright spot in the club, and a lot of people didn't think that was where it was going to come from this season. And it's about time that it's overdue time, to be honest, that the fans come out and support these guys, because they're going to be the ones that you're going to see in the senior setup in the not too distant future. So definitely come check them out.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to this week's show, and thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. You can always go to footballstadiumprints.com and find the supremely curated and entirely original soccer-focused graphic design. He puts it on anything from mugs to t-shirts. Head on over to footballstadiumprints.com. You can fill your cut up with posters of your favorite stadiums, including Edo Nelson Field, t-shirts of your favorite players, including John Bisworm and Matt Elder. Anything you need, Crows related or otherwise, this guy has gear and art for clubs world round, no matter how small, and that's why we love them. And don't forget to use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase. And remember that all U.S. orders ship right from the States, so there's not going to be any international shipping charges or weird things coming attached to your package thanks to customs. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so consider beefing up your tax deduction for next year through a charitable gift to the club. If you're interested in getting a hold of us, we've made it simple. You can hit the club up on Twitter at MPLSCitySC. You can talk to the show at The People's Pitch, or hit us up via email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. And that is all for this week. I am Nate. That was John. Let's ditch this hangover the oldest way we know with a Saturday night game against La Crosse Harris.
And
you got hooked.
Get hooked. If we even have a game.